ziyarah. No need to gather on the majlis of Sayyidina Ghawsul Azam Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir Jilani. No need to gather on the majlis of Khaja Mu'inuddin Chishti. Or no need to remember any of the Sahaba, Tabi'in, Imam Abu Hanifa, or Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. What is this? Isn't it against what we preach, what we do in our prayers every day? That is also minimum 17 times a day. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala guide all of us on the straight path. My dear brothers, the path of Salihin, this is, we have to follow in order to be beloved to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And again, if a person intends to visit a ziyarah of a wali of Allah, for example, one or people in hundreds, they come to visit Sayyidina Qaidul Baba Rahmatullahi alayhi. Many people, they go to visit Sayyidina Shaykh Uthman ibn Abdul Rahman Siddiqui radiyallahu ta'ala. And apart from this, if you go abroad, you can see in Ajmer to visit the holy shrine of Sayyidina Khaja Mu'inuddin Chishti. In millions people travel. In Baghdad to visit the ziyarah of Sayyidina Ghawsul Azam Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir Jilani. Again in millions. Alhamdulillah, I have visited Uzbekistan, Samarkand, Bukhara, where Sayyidina Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala who is resting, where Sayyidina Imam Bahauddin Naqshbandi radiyallahu ta'ala who is resting, where Sayyidina Imam al-Aqidah Abu Mansur Maturidi radiyallahu ta'ala who is resting. Subhanallah, you must see how people with love and affection visit their ziyarah. Subhanallah. This practice is not of 100 years or 200 years. This practice is coming since the time of Sahaba Karam Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. Again, without going in deep, let us consider only this point today. If a person goes to visit a ziyarah, what can be his purpose? What can be his intentions? Why does he go to visit a ziyarah? If I ask all of you, those who are frequently visiting ziyarah of a wali of Allah, if I ask this question, what is your intention to visit a ziyarah? Why do you go? What is the purpose of going to visit a wali of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? I am sure one of you will reply that I have a belief that by visiting a wali of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, I can seek the pleasure of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If I ask another person, he will also reply with another reason, that is, I have a belief that if I supplicate to Allah, if I ask dua from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, by being at a resting place of a wali of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, I have a belief that my dua will be accepted faster. If I ask another person, he will reply, I go to ziyarah just to seek the blessings of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Subhanallah. And he will definitely say, that place of a wali of Allah, that is such a place where Allah's rahmat is descending all the time. The mercies of Allah descends all the time over that pious servant of Allah. So in order to get few drops of those rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, I do visit ziyarah. You will find these reasons. There are others as well. Now as I have to brief this, all these three purposes, to seek the pleasure of Allah, to gain the blessings, rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and to have a belief that our du'as will be accepted faster through the wasila of the pious servant of Allah. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. All these three purposes are permissible and proved in light of the Holy Quran and in the light of hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Let me go one by one. Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wa salam, a Nabi of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and a dua of a Nabi is always accepted. And an act of a Nabi is a guidance for the mankind. Is a guidance. Whatever action they do, that is a guidance for us. There are many wisdoms which we cannot comprehend. My dear brothers, when Sayyida Maryam radiyallahu ta'ala anha was born, her mother, the before her birth, she intended that, Ya Allah, the one who is in my womb, I will keep him, because she thought she might get a son. I will keep him for the service of Masjid al-Aqsa. At that time, there were about 4,000 boys, children, who were at the service of Masjid al-Aqsa. Subhanallah. So Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha's mother also intended that I will submit my child for the service of Masjid al-Aqsa. When she gave a birth, it was baby girl, Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now, to fulfill her vow, she left that child, Sayyidah Maryam, at Masjid al-Aqsa. Again, the incident is in detail. I am not going in detail. And there were about 27 pious people at that time. You can call them as a trustee or mutawallis, caretakers of Masjid al-Aqsa. And Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam was the leader of all of them, and she was maternal uncle as well of Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam took her in order to take care of her. He built a place in Masjid al-Aqsa where Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was performing ibadah, and it is in tafsir, Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha used to grow per day. The other child grows per year. Her growth was such that in a day her growth was like a growth of another child up to 1 year. Subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala has blessed her in such a way. She was a pious servant of Allah and selected by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and mother of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. Anyway, Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was in her room. The room is locked. None can go without the permission of Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam. None can enter there. Only Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam was to enter, or without his permission, no one can enter. It is stated in the Holy Quran, كُلَّمَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهَا زَكَرِيَّا الْمِحْرَابَ وَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا رِزْقًا. Whenever Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam used to visit her in her mihrab, he found some kinds of fruits from heaven, subhanallah. Because he was the person to enter, he was the person to provide foods for her. But when he saw that, oh Maryam, I can see some fruits there with you, whereas I have not provided now, from where did you get all this? Subhanallah. قالت هو من عند الله. Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha replied, this is given by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Inna Allah yarzuqu man yasha bighayri hisab. And indeed, Allah Ta'ala blesses whomever He wants, He will. Subhanallah. So Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam, at that place where he saw that Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, with her karamat, with the miracle, she is being blessed with fruits from Jannah, whereas that was not the season for that particular fruit. It is given by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. At that time, as he was not bearing a child, Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam had a thought that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is qadir. He is able to do whatever Allah wills. Subhanallah. And at this age, where he was 120 years of age, and his wife was at 98 years as per the tafsir. Subhanallah. He made dua at that place where Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anhu was staying. Subhanallah. It is in Quran. Hunalika da'a. At that place where Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha was there, da'a Zakaria Rabbah. Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam prayed to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Qal Rabbi habli min ladunka dhurriyatan tayyibah. Ya Allah, bless me with a pious child. Subhanallah. Now again the question, an act of a Nabi is a lesson for us, and the dua of a Nabi is always accepted. Here Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam, by asking dua at the place of Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, who is not a Nabi but a waliya of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, a pious servant of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. By this act, this is a lesson for us by Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam, that do not consider a place of worship of a wali of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala as a normal place, but this is a place where duas are being accepted. These places where the pious servants Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, worships Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the place where they stay, do not consider that place as normal one, but those are such blessed places that the du'as are accepted if we make dua at their places. SubhanAllah. So in light of the Holy Quran, if we visit another wali of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, in order to make our du'as accepted faster, subhanallah, this is not against the Quran, this is not against the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but this is exactly in light of the Holy Quran and the hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And one more thing, Sayyidah Maryam radiallahu ta'ala anha, she did not stay there for the entire life, no, for a particular period. And the wali of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, subhanallah, where he stays for hundreds of years, or 500 years, or 1,000 years, who can guess the barakah and the rahmats descending at that place? And why not the du'as will be accepted? Why not the dua be accepted at those places where they are resting? My dear brothers, so alhamdulillah, one of the intention, one of the purpose of us, this is exactly in light of the Holy Quran, and there is no way to deny this, because the denial will be a result to deny the verse of the Holy Quran of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And another purpose that we want, we think that we can seek the pleasure of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala by visiting a pious servant of Allah. Refer to hadith of Sahih Muslim, narrated by Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala. He says that a person, in order to visit another person, a pious servant, he left his village and started his journey towards the other village in order to visit another pious person. SubhanAllah. On his way, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala appointed an angel, a malak, who was waiting for him on his way. When that person came, this angel, who was in form of a human, he asked that person, "Where do you intend to go?" This person replied, "I am going to so and so village in order to visit a person." So the angel questioned him again, "Are you going to visit him because you have done a favor over him and you want to get the repayment? Or has he done any favor over you so that you are going to repay that favor?" This person replied, "No, I have no any such intentions, no such purposes. I am going to visit him just for the sake of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala." Subhanallah. For the sake of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. The angel replied, "Subhanallah, I am an angel of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and I came to give you the glad tidings that Allah ta'ala is happy with you. Allah loves you the way you love that person for the sake of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala." SubhanAllah. Now my dear brothers, do we visit the qabr of Abu Jahl, or do we visit the qabr of Abu Lahab, the grave of Abu Lahab or Musaylama ibn Kadhab? No. If we visit, we do visit the ziyarah of Sayyidina Ghawsul Azam Muhyiddin Abdul Qadir Jilani, Sayyidina Khaja Mu'inuddin, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari, Sayyidina Bahauddin Nashbandi, Sayyidina Shahabuddin Soharwardi, and other awliya Allah, even in Sri Lanka. We used to visit Sayyidina Sheikh Uthman, Sayyidina Sheikh Ketal Baba, Sayyidina Sheikh Ashraf, Sayyidina Kufi Baba. Why? Because they were pious servants of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We never visit the grave of a kafir, but we visit the grave of a Muslim and also a pious servant of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And it is obvious we are going to visit him because they are pious servants of Allah. That is in order to seek the pleasure of Allah, and seeking the pleasure of Allah, and Allah's pleasure is confirmed by having love, the true affection over that person who is loved by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. If we go towards him with the intention that we can seek the pleasure of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, in light of the hadith of Sahih Muslim, alhamdulillah, it is clearly proved that we can go and visit a ziyarah of a wali of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala by the intention of seeking pleasure of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Another third thing where I mentioned that one of the reason is rahmats of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala descends over them all the time, and by visiting their places we also can gain few drops of those rahmats of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. There is a narration, and very famous narration, that the place where a wali of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is remembered, a Allah's rahmat descends at that place. Where a wali of Allah, where a pious servant of Allah is remembered, the rahmats of Allah Ta'ala descends at that place. And another hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is recorded in Jami' al-Saghir by Sayyidina Imam al-Ajal, Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti Shafi'i radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Dhikr al-Anbiya min al-ibadah, that the remembrance of prophets of Allah, this is also ibadah. Wa dhikr al-salihin kaffara, and remembering the pious servants of Allah, this is compensation for the sins. Compensation for the sins. A sin, if a person gets the compensation for the sins, that means he is being blessed with the rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. So we got to know in light of the hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that when a pious person is remembered, Allah's rahmats descends at that place. For example, is there any doubt that Sayyidina Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala was a pious person? He was such a pious that Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through the wasila of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, people experience the smell, the fragrance from his grave after he left this world. SubhanAllah. He was a great person, did great service of the hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is no way to doubt that Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala was a pious person. So for example, if I mention the name of Sayyidina Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala, as he was a pious person, and in light of hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by remembering Sayyidina Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala, we all are being blessed with the rahmats of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We are here about 1,000 people, or even if we are gathered in a place where 10,000 people are gathered, by remembering Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala alone, if we all the people are being blessed by the rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, that means their name is such blessed one, such barakah, that by remembering them, we are being blessed by the rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Then just imagine, the person's name has got such blessings that the one who remembers, and the place where he is remembered, those places full of rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then who can guess the rahmat of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala descending over Sayyidina Imam Bukhari radiyallahu ta'ala. His name is such a blessed one that by remembering him, we all are being blessed with the rahmats of Allah. Then what about the rahmats of Allah over Sayyidina Imam Bukhari? What about the rahmats of Allah on Sayyidina al-Muhyiddin and other pious servants of Allah? And again, what about that place where they are resting for hundreds of years, for 1,000 years, for 1,100 and 1,200 years, even 1,300 years. Subhanallah, that place is full of barakah, and alhamdulillah, by visiting their places, inshaAllah al-Aziz, we all will be blessed by the rahmats of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So all these three purposes of us, this is clearly proved in light of the Holy Quran and in the light of hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now at the beginning, when I mentioned some people, they used to make use of a hadith without the reference of a muhaddith, without the quote of a muhaddith, and try to explain that this is wrong, that is wrong, you should not do that. One example, Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stated, La tushaddu rihal illa ila thalatha masajid. The meaning of the hadith is not to travel apart from the three masajid, that is Masjidul Haram, Makkah Sharif, Masjidul Nabawi Sharif in Madinatul Munawwara, and Masjidul Aqsa. Some people, they quote this hadith and say, when Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has stated, do not travel to those places other than these three masajid, they are trying to prove, when it is in hadith not to travel apart from these three masjids, then you should not travel towards a ziyarah as well. You cannot go to the grave of a wali of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and this is totally against the hadith. This is narrated by them because they are away from muhaddithin and they are trying to preach according to their own belief, according to their own desires. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala protect all of us from such people. Now the answer is, my dear brothers, remember this point first. The thing which is obligatory on us, for example, a person who can afford for Hajj, it is fard upon him to perform Hajj. And it is in hadith, Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim, to seek the knowledge of Islam, of Deen, it is compulsory over all the Muslims. It is fard. So to do an act of fard we have to travel, so the traveling also will be compulsory. Doing business, this is permissible in light of the Holy Quran, in light of the hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, the truthful businessman, the honest trader, he will be with Anbiya Kiram in Jannah. The honest businessman will be with the prophets of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in Jannah. So in order to do trade, if a person travels, that also will be permissible. Consuming alcohol is haram. So if a person starts his traveling in order to consume alcohol,